teachers, looking into the study of learning spaces is vital. With such diversity in the classroom of today, students all present with different levels of needs, and these needs must be addressed. Students all learn in different ways, just as each teacher teaches in a different way, meaning that each learning space should be unique, aimed at what works best for those students and that teacher. As teachers, we must look at the way our students work and interact with the material to best decide how to teach and in which environment to teach it in. The learning spaces available to teachers and students have changed considerably over the years, and it is a change which we must embrace to allow for the best learning to occur. This presentation will look at the 5 key learning spaces, which are the classroom and the school, beyond the classroom, the electronic learning space, the individual learning space, and the group learning space. The classroom is the learning space in which we tend to spend the most time. It is at the heart of students' learning. So this means that students need to have some degree of say in the way in which the classroom is set out. Marilyn Reed conducted a study into classroom design and students' preferences for this. She particularly looked into the visual stimuli present in a classroom and how this affects students' learning. She focused on 2 main questions. How do the children in my class perceive the designed classroom? And what type of design characteristics do children in the environment prefer and why? The overall objective of her study was to better understand the principles and elements of design that are aesthetically pleasing to students. Reed concluded from her study that students saw spheres and circles as having special meaning and felt more relaxed when viewing spherical shapes. Another significant finding from Reed's study is that of girls preferring an environment with high visual stimulation over low visual stimulation. From this study we can take a lot, creating spaces with circular and spherical items and also creating different spaces within the classroom, some with high visual stimulation and some with lower visual stimulation, to cater for all students and their preferences. Classroom design is so important as poor design may lead to disengagement from students compared to a well-designed classroom being an environment that students will want to be in. Classroom design needs to be something decided upon by both the teacher and students so the students have a sense of ownership within their classroom, and it will help both the teacher and students to feel comfortable in their surroundings. Classroom design may need to be trial and error, as what works for one class may not work for another. But trying to find a space in which students feel comfortable and learn well in will lead to rich learning from students, which as teachers is what we want to see. Going beyond the 4 walls of the classroom can be a bit daunting. Or the organisation of buses, extra helpers, and ensuring all students have paid to go on the excursion can lead to teachers to dread them. However, these experiences need to be seen as an integral learning space for students. Lorenza states that excursions not only tick off curriculum requirements, they also give students a controlled adventure into the world outside the physical and safe bounds of the school. I remember as a student at school in grade 2, we went for an excursion to the creek, not far from the school, to learn all about the different things that live in and around the water. As an 8-year-old who had never experienced this, it was so exciting and had my mind wandering. Excursions give students an experience which they may not have had before. Just as we spoke about the elements of the classroom, an excursion provides students with a completely different sensory learning experience. This could be anything from the way the water runs through the creek to the sounds that they can hear around it. Just as excursions provide rich learning, so too do incursions. By bringing an activity into the school, students are able to experience something different without leaving the school grounds, which can provide much less stress for teachers while still providing sensory learning to students. After these experiences, students are excited and just want to talk about them. Upon returning to school, discussion about the excursion or incursion should take place. This allows students to share their experiences with one another and create a rich community of practice. Technology is a word which scares many of us. Technology is a big unknown. The internet, computers, and iPads. They are the way of the future and the way of a generation. Children growing up in the 21st century are becoming more and more reliant on technology. Reliant or just embracing? I think we automatically jump to the conclusion that children are using too much technology and are becoming antisocial and reliant on it to keep themselves occupied. But I think children are just embracing it and its advances in the last 10 years. These children are of the technological age, so as teachers, we need to embrace technology and the electronic learning space to allow children to further embrace the technology we currently have and the technologies yet to be invented. Sugata Mitra has conducted a number of well-known experiments around technology and education. His most well-known is that of the hole in the wall, where he put a computer into a wall in the middle of the slums of India to see how children reacted. In his TED Talk from 2010, he talks through his findings and through the opportunities that technology had given the children from the experiment. He found that children can learn to use computers regardless of who or where they are. He also found that a single child in front of a single computer will not provide the same results as 4 students around a single computer. When students are working together on a computer, they are discussing, therefore more likely to learn more. Even though these experiments took place with children who had no teachers and lived in a completely different side of the world to us, we can take a lot from Sugata's research. Providing children with the opportunity for technology can increase their learning capabilities tenfold. When Sugata extended his research to classrooms with a teacher, he found that students would continue to Google for more information well after the session had finished. All of this shows us we need to find a place for technology in our classrooms, as it is an incredible resource with infinite possibilities for students to learn. I have linked Sugata Mitra's TED Talk here. It's very interesting and goes for 17 minutes. It is well worth a watch after this presentation. Everyone learns in a different way, and what works for one may not for another. Self-directed learning, or individual learning, takes learners and gives them some flexibility, giving them responsibility for the planning, directing, and evaluating of their work. So how could this look in the classroom? Through inquiry units, students could have freedom to choose from a list of topics to explore. This way, they're exploring what they would like. They would then go off and research and put together a presentation of their choice, although some guidance could be given. And at the end, self-evaluate their work. When students have the ability to choose what, where, and how they learn, they will learn in the best way for them, and it gives students a sense of ownership over their work. Just as giving students the ability to choose their own work and evaluate, we too as teachers need to reflect on our own learning and model this self-reflection to students. Peter Pappas has developed a taxonomy of reflection which is modelled on Bloom's approach. This taxonomy looks at a list of questions to be considered in self-reflection. These are: number 1, what did I do? Number 2, what was important about what I did? Did I meet my goals? Number 3, when did I do this before? Where could I use it again? Number 4, do I see any patterns or relationships in what I did? Number 5, how well did I do? What worked? What do I need to improve? And number 6, what should I do next? What is my plan or design? This set of 6 questions can help teachers and students as a guide to self-reflection, which is so important for learning and further learning. Cooperative learning can be incredibly beneficial to students, but it can also hold very little value. As teachers, we need to make sure that we are using cooperative learning in the best ways possible, so that it has maximum impact on our students. There are different forms of cooperative learning, but all look at working in small groups. Cooperative learning gives students the ability to discuss information and practice skills that would usually only be done by the teacher. Cooperative learning strategies fall into 2 main categories. The first is structured team learning, which involves students working together but with individual accountability. So the success of the team relies on the individual learning, not the group product. Meaning students are more likely to work through what they are meant to be working through, as they don't want to let the rest of the team down. The second category is informal learning. This method is more focused on the social dynamics, the actual end product and the discussion, as opposed to mastery of the content. So how might this look in the classroom? Again, inquiry units are ideal for group work, as each group can focus on a different topic within the main unit. As teachers, we need to ensure that we are not always having students work in groups, as this is when group learning can be more detrimental to students. Finding a balance for our own classroom is key. A bit of group work here and there will help our students considerably, especially when we group students so that there are different gifts and talents within each group. Students will bounce off each other and learn from each other, and this is the most beneficial thing for students, learning from each other and seeing how each other learns. So in conclusion, as teachers, we need to embrace all 5 learning spaces so that we are giving students the best chance to learn and are providing them with the best experiences possible. School is the starting point for a very long life, and if these learning skills are embedded early, they will all thrive to become successful young men and women.